Hey, what's up, everybody? Wanted to come to you with just a short video here, and one of the questions that we are asked a lot is, why is it that I feel like I'm stuck, that I can't change? I think that at some level, most of us can relate to this reality. We continue to come back to the same thing over and over and over again in our life. I don't care what it is, if it's business, I don't care if it's a relationship issue, a family problem, a personal problem, an addiction, whatever the case may be. There is a reason why we find ourselves stuck. There's a reason why we cannot move beyond the place where we are. Now, I want to give a warning before we go into these 5 things. Every single one of us are going to find little things in life that will medicate, that will soothe that issue for a little while. We call it the season or the moment of reprieve. But I want you to understand something. That reprieve only lasts for a moment. Once that reprieve is gone, you're going to end up right back into the same place of chaos, insanity, and all of the trouble that you are experiencing in your life on an ongoing basis. I'm not against these events that you attend. I'm not against seminars. I'm not against going to these weekend retreats. I'm not against it. I think they're great. I think they have a place. What I am against, however, is going into these events, having this great, fantastic emotional experience and being deceived into thinking that those 2 or 3 days of emotional experience actually helped to change what needs to change in your life. So we're going to talk about some stuff that's real. This isn't an emotional experience. This is about you. Finding the things and doing the things that you need to do to get to the place in your life where you're experiencing real transformation. The things that need to change are changing. So here we go. Let's get ready. Very first thing. The very first reason that you're not changing, that you are stuck in the current place that you are, is because of what we call the pain point. And here's what we mean by this. Every single one of us have pain in our life. There's things in our life that are painful. But here's the problem. We haven't reached the point of pain that brings us to where the pain is greater than the fear of where we need to go. And so when you come to the moment, or you come to the place where the pain in your life is greater than the fear of what it's going to take to change, then you can start the process of change. And so it begins with you actually reaching that pain point. And I want you to know this. This is so important. That somebody else cannot force you into that pain point. There are things that can happen. There are interventions. There are things that even God can step into to bring you to that place. But when you get there, you will know it. It is a pain that is like nothing else you've ever experienced. Some people refer to it as they've hit the bottom. I've been there. I hit the bottom, I reached my pain point, and the only thing that I could do from there was to move into a place where I was going to start the process of changing. The pain point was greater than the fear of where I needed to go. Secondly, the second thing that is keeping you stuck and from experiencing change is interruption. There is nothing interrupting the patterns that need to change. We say this statement all the time: nothing changes if nothing changes. And I like to take it a step further. And nothing changes until we interrupt what needs to change. But here's what you need to understand. If you had the capacity to interrupt it on your own, you already would have done it. The problem is that you can't. I couldn't. I could not interrupt on my own what needed to change. I needed somebody to step in to help me interrupt it. So know this, that you can talk about change all day long. You can talk about wanting to make a difference in your life. You can talk about changing your circumstances all day long. But until you interrupt what needs to change, nothing is going to change. All it's going to be is really good intentions. So the first thing is pain point. We've got to reach the pain point. Second thing is we've got to interrupt what needs to change. We have to interrupt those patterns. Third thing is control. We are still trying to control outcomes. We're still trying to manipulate. We're still trying to control all of the things that we don't have the capacity to control. One of the greatest lessons that I ever learned in life, in fact, this is the principle that I probably go back to more than any other principle in my life. I can only control two things: my actions and my attitude. This is the only power that the creator of the universe has given me to control. My actions and my attitude. Now I know some of us fight that. I know that I fought it for a really, really long time. But I can tell you this, until I came to the point of my life where I was willing to relinquish the control, stop blaming the world around me, stop blaming all of my circumstances on what people had done to me, how I was raised, what my upbringing looked like, until I was willing to relinquish the control, I was not on a path to experiencing real transformation and change. And so I want you to contemplate and meditate on that reality right there. This one is so important. You come to the place where you're willing to say, I cannot do this alone. I cannot do this on my own. I need help. In fact, I say this often. The three most powerful words that you'll ever say in your life is, I need help. Which brings us to number 4, accountability. Now, we're not just talking about accountability in what we hear, these accountability buddies and accountability partners. We're talking about forceful accountability. Now, let me explain to you what that means. This is about bringing somebody in your life who is willing to hold you accountable and give you or place on you a consequence if you do not do what you're being called to do, if you're not walking the journey out that you've been called to walk out. It's somebody who is sitting in your life, sitting across from you, who is willing to do for you what you don't have the capacity or the ability to do for yourself. We call it forceful accountability. I want to just say this. There is all kinds of talk of accountability. We talk about accountability. We hear people talk about it in businesses. We hear people talk about it in church settings. I call somebody up and just kind of tell them what's going on in my life, and they give me a little pat on the back. I'm going to say a little prayer for you. I'm not against all of it, but I'm telling you right now, that kind of accountability is not forceful accountability, bringing you to a place of actually giving you, there's a consequence if you violate the very things that are bringing you to the place of hope and change. And so it's not just having somebody that you can call. It's having somebody that is sitting in your life, speaking into your life, outlining things for your life, calling you to do things that are extremely uncomfortable, that may seem at times counterintuitive. This is what accountability really looks like. And then saying, here's the consequence if you don't walk this out. This one is so incredibly important. And then last, of course, we cannot talk about any of these without coming to the place of your own personal responsibility in surrender. Surrendering your will in your way. This right here is probably one of the greatest hindrances to a person's change, to us experiencing real transformation. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're needing change relationally. It doesn't matter if you're needing a change in business, if you're needing a change in your own personal life. Maybe you're struggling with some sort of an addiction that only you know about, nobody else does, but it's affecting your life, it's affecting your relationship, you're hiding, you're sneaking, whatever the case may be. This right here, this surrender is so important. Let me tell you where this surrender begins. This surrender begins with honest confession from you. We call it rigorous honesty. Being willing to be honest, not selectively honest, not just giving enough information out to let people know you're real and authentic, yet keeping everything else covered up. We're talking about real, honest confession. Again, all of these tie in together, but this confession and this honesty is what you are carrying out with the person that you've sat in front of you, with the person that is holding you accountable to this life and to this change that you so desperately want and so desperately need. And so there has to be not just an element, but actual total surrender. So let me just real quick close with this. When I was on the brink of literally driving my life off the edge of a cliff, everything falling apart, my organization falling apart, I was losing everything that I built for, my marriage had fallen apart, everything that I had worked for, built for, that I had done, everything that I had built was coming undone. The only thing that brought me to the place where I stand today is I was willing to walk these 5 things out. I didn't hide from the pain. I realized it, I accepted it. And when I accepted it, that pain became greater. The realization of that pain became greater than the fear of what I needed to do to change. I was willing to interrupt what needed to change. I was willing to let interruption take place. I was willing to let go and to give up the control, to stop trying to control what others thought about me, to stop trying to control the outcomes. I let someone come into my life. I brought a mentor into my life who I allowed to hold me accountable. And by the way, there were consequences when I veered, and there were consequences, and I allowed those consequences to take place in my life. And then surrender. I surrendered to the process. I was open and honest, rigorously honest in my confession. And here I am now, a couple of years later, walking out a journey of full and total transformation. And here's what's so beautiful about this story. There is still chaos around me. There's still chaos in the organization. Chaos exists. But I've never lived a life like I live today with internal peace and happiness and knowing that I'm living my life in an open, honest, ethical way. And so these 5 things right here are the things that are keeping you from experiencing the change that you so desperately want. And until you're willing to do this, just plan to keep on living in that chaos and insanity. If you'd like more information and to know how we can help you, go to docferris.com. And there's a little application form there. We'd love for you to just get on the phone with us, have a conversation with us. Let us know how we can help you along on this journey to be a part of that transformation that you're looking for.